welcome back to another music nugget. So, what on earth just happened? Basically, it was parallel major and minor material, but not in the traditional sense. And by the traditional sense, I mean mainly from a songwriting point of view. For songwriters, mostly call it borrowed chords, and they mostly come from the parallel major or minor key of whatever major or minor you're working in. A classic example of that would be Penny Lane by the Beatles. So basically it starts off on chord 1, and because it's a piano thing, it's moving bass with pretty much the same chord held at the top, so you get this kind of effect. You get and what's happening there is you're implying chord 1 major key, chord 7 major key, chord 6 major key, and chord 5 major key, and then it does a little 1-7 again, and then it goes back to, that's almost like you could consider the 7 to be the 5 as well, because effectively we could put the root of the 5 chord on there and it becomes a sort of suspended thing. So the 7 leads nicely back to, it creates lots of tension to go to the minor 1 chord, to borrow the 1 chord from the parallel minor key. And then that goes through a bunch of minor key chords. And then a suspended 5 moving to a dominant or major 5 to get us back to that major 1 chord again. So altogether the effect is you have a really dramatic minor lilt down. So there's the change. And this is how we get back, pivot chord, back to the major. So that's typically how parallel major and minor is used. It's a borrowed chords thing mostly. But you'll hear things more like what I've done at the beginning in sort of more contemporary classical music, even sort of older classical music. And jazz guys like it a lot as well because it's a really good way of messing about with chord substitutions. So what I did was I mapped out the major key and the minor key, all 7 chords from both, with the same root, so C major and C minor. There's a number of different ways you can build that up. You can do things like simply write out the scale and then join up. Those are the 3 notes that will be in chord 1. The 3 notes that will be in chord 2 are those, and that's what make a D minor, that's what makes an E minor, and so on. So all the material is in the scale basically, and then you can hear for yourself whether it's major or minor. And then the same thing with the C minor chords. The other thing you can think of it as is key of E flat major. So C minor and E flat major, they're relative. And you could think of it as being the same pattern. We've got major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, back to major again. And if you start here, you'll notice you have the same pattern. So major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, and then back to your major. So there's a lot of ways of relating these things. But what I did was I simply messed around with picking interesting chords, just swapping from one key to the next. So the first chord in my progression is from the first column. It's a C major but with the 3rd in the bass and E in the bass. And I was trying to get basically nice chromatic movement for the bass line and then just work from there, see what was left over in terms of voices. Kind of treating it like a string trio, I guess. So the bass, in fact I'll explain the chords first. The chords are going C/E, so that's C major, but with an E in the bass. And it's giving me chromatic movement down to the D minor. So I then thought, right, I'll have C minor from the next column, but with the 3rd in the bass, with the E flat in the bass. That leads nicely back to the other column because we've got chromatic step down to D minor. Then I could have went down to C minor if I was continuing down the way, but that would sound like, it's a little bit kind of too neutral, or actually a little bit too much like you've came home at a strange part of the progression. So instead of going there, I didn't want to come back up either. I thought I'll just see if there's a wild jump that sounds really good, and A flat is a flat fifth down from that D minor. So that gave me the sort of drama that I wanted. So far we've got C slash E, C minor slash E flat, D minor, and then going to that A flat. So far all we've done is column A, column B, column A, column B. So we're going back to column A, and from there I noticed you have really nice, just completely chromatic movement all the way up to C minor, going from one column to the next. So you've got A minor to B flat to B diminished to C minor from column B, and then back to the beginning with the C slash E. So it's really quite sort of grand and epic sounding. And what I thought I would do was just lay down the bass as quarter notes. And a good way to attempt this yourself with any chord progression is refer back to the rhythm and groove lessons in this channel, where I'm talking about how to split triplets, how to get a quarter note triplet on the downbeat and a quarter note triplet on the offbeat. But basically, the way that these work, I'll loop it up. So I'll do just one chord. So that's the bass note moving in quarters. That is one of the melody notes moving on the downbeat quarter note triplet, and that is on the offbeat quarter note triplet. And strangely, these are triplets, but they move in fours because I'm octaving in groups of two of each of these. So I'll just demonstrate. I'll make more sense when I demonstrate. So here's the bass. And then downbeat quarter note triplets are going to go one and that two and that and that two and that one and that two and that three and that four and that one and that two and that three and that four and that. So that's starting on the one. Whereas the offbeat quarter note triplets will be the notes in between to form a whole eighth note triplet. So that will start on the and of one. So that would be one and that two and that three and that four and that one and that two and that three and that four and that. And so if I do that with the C and the G, we get so that's the downbeat quarter note triplet. We want to put the ones in the spaces in between. Here comes the G. And it's a little bit loose, but you can hear that same effect that you heard at the beginning. You could try this with any two keys. I think it's the relationship that you establish for the listener between the two keys which makes it acceptable to kind of make almost any chord change move. So try it with parallel major and minor, try it with any two keys, try making scales out of, try making chords out of melodic minor and stuff like that. Harmonic minor, parallel harmonic minor could be interesting. And you'll find that because they have that sort of inherent relationship, that cool stuff happens no matter what. So that's all I really wanted to do on that. That's parallel major and minor, interesting stuff, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.